Right, in this video we are going to talk mainly about the new British all-electric 4x4, sort of all-electric, was supposed to be all-electric, the Ineos Fusilier. So this was announced a couple of weeks ago now, and they did a sort of press release in London, and they had a sort of prototype car. So we're going to go through and we're going to look at what it is, but we're also going to look at, by defining what it is, what it's not, because there's often a lot of interesting things there. So we are going to do a little bit, we're going to go on the whiteboard and we're going to talk about it, and we may reflect about some of the other 4x4, all-electric 4x4s that are coming on the market. In theory, there's a Defender Sport possibly coming out, and Land Rover have announced that an all-electric Defender will be built in the Nitra plant in Slovakia. So we've got this in the backdrop of an exciting time for 4x4s, and maybe at the end we'll talk about 4x4s being electric and how in some ways that's really cool, and in some ways it kind of is a big ask of an electric thing. Right, let's dive over to the whiteboard for a classroom lesson. So I've written some key points. So it's 4x4, so the new Fusilier is going to be 4x4. Great, excellent. Although that does bring challenges with electrics in terms of aerodynamics, they tend to be boxy shaped. So let's have a look at it. Let's put a picture on the screen. So this is the pictures from Ineos of their new Fusilier. Now, obviously, they have got a prototype. The prototype was shown there, so I think it's going to be pretty close to this design. So it's a battery electric vehicle. So that means it's going to have batteries powering electric motors. All the drive is going to come from electric motors. Now, that's interesting. That's what it is. But that means let's look at what it's not. So it's not hydrogen. So obviously Jim Ratcliffe, with his chemical giant, he was pushing hydrogen transport, and they did have a concept Grenadier, I think, with a hydrogen-powered fuel cell thing. But clearly that is not what they're going to make in their next generation or their first generation electric car. So that's interesting to reflect on that. And I think that's probably due to the fact there is no distribution network for hydrogen. And although electric distribution and charging points is still a problem, they do at least exist for most people. So they have announced that there will also be a range extender version. So the range is going to be about 248 miles on the battery alone. But they are going to put a little petrol-powered generator that's going to chug away and give power to the battery that it can then give to its electric motors. So it's sort of a hybrid, but it's not one of those horrible hybrids where you've got an engine and clutches and disengages and battery motors. It's just literally a little chuggy generator strapped on the back. And obviously that is to give improved range. So obviously 4x4s, we've touched on already, they tend to be boxy in shape because you need to sit up high, you need to look over, you need the ground clearance which lifts up the body. And just the utilitarian design, they tend to be boxy, and style demands that. So they're non-aerodynamic, which is and they tend to be bigger than normal saloon cars. So that also adds weight and drag. So it's a big ask. So the new Fusilier has been announced. It will be smaller, and you can see the pictures of it on the screen with some people next to it. It will be smaller than the Grenadier, which I don't think it could get much bigger or heavier. And it's obviously going to be lighter. So they're trying to reduce the amount of drag as much as they can. So they're quite focused on that. Also, weight. They've announced that the door panels, the bonnet, the closers will be made from aluminium, not steel. The main body shell is going to be steel. It's going to have what they call a skateboard architecture underneath with 2 electric motors, and I'll sketch what that looks like on the board in a second. So obviously they are now much more focused on weight, and I tease the Grenadier for being a bit of a pie eater and being a bit overweight. So the weight is your enemy in any form of motoring in terms of acceleration, efficiency, braking, handling. It's just a nightmare. So it's good to see that Ineos are really focused on the weight issue. Those sessions at Weight Watchers clearly paid off. Right, so what are we talking about with the skateboard? So it's going to have a big battery, presumably under the floor. And then obviously you've got your 4 wheels, and they will be driven by 2 motors, okay, which will be mounted on the skateboard. And these will drive drive the wheels like so. So you can have a sort of four-wheel drive. Now, in announcing the skateboard with the two motors, they've actually, let's look at what it's not. So it's not a four-motor system. So you can put, and we did discuss before, that Magna Steya, who have designed and will be building this vehicle for Ineos, we're doing a collaboration with a company called RE, who had a four-corner system where you had four electric motors. Now, if you have four electric motors, you have full control over each wheel. You can make the front one, the right-hand ones go forward, the other ones go backwards. Now, it's interesting. Magna Steya have also designed and are building the new Electric G Wagon, which is smaller than the existing G Wagon. I'll put some pictures on the screen now. I might even get a bit of video of them doing tank turns down the Las Vegas Strip at the recent Consumer Electronics show. So you can see they can swivel around on the spot. Now, not handy day to day, unless you're a taxi driver in London, but could be handy off-road for just manoeuvring, pointing around, getting around obstacles and stuff. So they're not going to do that. They've missed that opportunity. Now, interestingly, some of the Chinese 4x4s, and I'll put a couple of pictures on the screen now. It was the Cherry there's a Cherry something or other 3, and there was another one, I've forgotten the name of it. I'll put the pictures on the screen and the names on the screen now. And these are quite Defender-looking machines. Off-road, should I say, looking machines. And they're already coming out with four-motor drive technologies and stuff, which is interesting. So they've decided not to go the four-motor route. Now, interestingly, on Magna Steya's website, they've actually designed, I'll put a picture of it on the screen now, they have designed an intelligent beam axle. So they've actually designed a solid axle, which we know the Grenadier's got, conventionally driven, but they've actually designed an electronic motor built into a solid axle, specifically for 4x4s, because those die-hard 4x4 people that don't like the independent suspension and want the beam axle, it seems like that option is available, and that was on the cards, on the table for them to pick from. But Ineos have decided that they want the dual motor skateboard, which I'm pretty certain means you've got to have independent suspension on a 4x4, which I love, but some people don't, so something to consider. They've announced that it's going to be rack and pinion steering. Big thumbs up from me. They're going away from that reciprocating ball steering that has generally not been well accepted. I think that had been left to the history archives for a reason, and it didn't really need bringing back from the dead in the Grenadier. So they've moved on, and we have got rack and pinion steering. So I think that's good. As well as doing the design work, Magna Steya are also going to be building it. So that's what it is, but let's look at what that means is not going to happen. So that means they're not going to use, Ineos have bought the factory that used to make the smart car and some G-Wagons, I believe. They're not going to use the factory they bought in Hambach to build this new Fusilier. They're going to let Magna Steya do that. Now, interestingly, Magna Steya have built the Fisker Ocean, and that is built on a platform, a skateboard platform, and I think it's called the FM29 platform or something. I'll put it on the screen, which is a Magna sort of Steya, as I understand it, platform. Now, Fisker, isn't it? Yeah, George is knowing. Fisker have been in the news this week because MKBHD did a review on the Fisker Ocean, and he rated it as the worst car he'd ever reviewed, which was quite interesting. And although fundamentally there was a lot on the car, there was a lot of glitchy stuff. Now, how much of that is Fisker and Magna Steya and even interpretation of the user, we don't know. But that's caused some shockwaves through the media, and there were some other howlers made by Fisker in terms of, yeah, they didn't recognise MKBHD, who's one of the best and most popular tech YouTubers out there. So that's quite interesting. So it's quite interesting how Magna Steya relate to all this stuff and who Ineos is partnering with and why. So a couple more things. I didn't find it in the official statement, but apparently they have said they are considering manufacturing locations in addition to the Magna Steya one, which I think is in Austria. They are looking at China and America. So let's be honest, I think Ineos have gone more mainstream. I think the built on purpose, focused off-road, filling a gap left by the old Defender, I think that's all pretty much gone now. They're going much more mainstream, and I think it's probably a good direction. Another interesting thing about the design. So we looked at it and we're like, yeah, it's a bit G-Wagon-y. Okay, Magna, Steya, maybe they got some G-Wagon in their blood somewhere, designing it all. I think it's a bit Jeep Compassy. I think it's a bit Defender-y. And there's a bit of Jimny in there as well. So I thought, for the banter, for a laugh, let's get on ChatGPT. So I get on ChatGPT. Hey, right, design me, I'll put the exact quote on the screen, but it was to the effect of, design me an electric 4x4, compact 4x4, based on roughly the looks of the Defender, the Jeep Compass, the Suzuki Jimny, and the G-Wagon. And bam, look at what it created me. And that took, DALL-E, the picture generation bit of ChatGPT, took them 20 seconds to design this. Now, watch this. So that is the AI designed 4x4. This is the Fusilier. And now I'll put them side by side. Now, is it just me? Or does that look spookily like similar? Who knows? Let me know your thoughts. So that's all very interesting. So when are we going to get our hands on one of these Fusiliers? So it's going to be 2027 at the earliest before these are going to be available for customer orders. So it's a while. And I think that's quite a while because the Chinese are really bringing out some exciting, I'll call it, I think there's some exciting 4x4s. There's new brands coming up everywhere from China and America. You know, Rivian are pushing along. They got some financial difficulties. One thing that the Chinese often don't have because they've often got state funding and backing. So they're already launching these Chinese 4x4s with 4 electric motors and some crazy performance and stuff, and quite cool looking. And as soon as I can get my hands on one, we will. So to see it down the road another 3 years, it makes you think, how far is the market going to have moved on in that 3 years? Announcing something that's coming in 3 years, are they just trying to hold on? Are they trying to get us excited? Or is it a good idea to pre-launch something so early? Let me know your thoughts about 4x4s, EVs, Ineos, beam axles, independent suspension, the whole shebang. Let me know what you think.